Welcome to the highlight of the spring lecture series, the Cascieri Lecture in Humanities, given by the distinguished Janet Echelman. My name is Karen Nelson, and I'm the Dean of the School of Architecture at the Boston Architectural College. For those of you who are new to the college, we offer dynamic undergraduate and graduate programs in architecture, design, interior architecture, and landscape architecture, dedicated to the futures and just communities. As I mentioned, the college was founded in 1889 as a place of open conversation. We continue to bring new energy to the conversation about design, about equitable access, about the city as an expression of design values. The Cascieri Lectureship in Humanities was established in 1992 to honor the life and work of Arcangelo Cascieri, who served the college and its students for more than 5 decades. Cascieri transformed the BAC into a remarkable, some would say radical, institution. Dean Cascieri was a teacher, a mentor. Peter, can I get the slides to advance a little bit? That's Janet. This is her amazing lecture title, Taking Imagination Seriously. This is a drawing made by Arcangelo Cascieri when he was a student in 1926 at the then BAC Club. Next. Arcangelo worked during the day as an ecclesiastical sculptor, and he came to the BAC at 5 p.m. till 10 p.m. every night of his working life. And you can see his work both in our library, around the college, and around a number of institutions in New England. If you see a carved finial, it's likely the work of Arcangelo. As a faculty member at the BAC, giving feedback when students dressed a bit differently. Next. A plaster cast looking at the acorn of knowledge to be sought. Annual handmade Christmas cards. Pardon me. Next. We'll keep that there for a moment, Peter. Thank you. That's Arcangelo with then President Bernie Springer and Elsie Hurst, who handled all issues of money. Arcangelo challenged generations of students and community members to raise questions about the role design plays in society. He emigrated from Italy when he was 5, became a student at the BAC in the 20s, became dean and a volunteer in 1943 and served in that role till 1995. This lectureship began as a 90th birthday gift to him. The inaugural lecture and birthday celebration took place in this very hall just 32 years ago. I am so honored to have such a synthetic thinker join us. I want to express my gratitude to Janet Echelman for sharing her inspirations and ways of thinking with us. I also want to express my gratitude to the BAC community members, especially the late Bernie Goba, Don Brown, and Tony Pina, who have been instrumental in keeping this lectureship alive in the life of the college. Thank you for your ongoing energy and commitment. Now let's show a few more, Peter, of just, this is Arcangelo bringing the goat that he and his wife Ada kept at in their yard to a barn every just late fall, so the goat would be comfortable, and they'd pick it back up in spring. That's our mural, which was dedicated in 1976. Next. The hall you're sitting in is named for Arcangelo. There is a photograph and full-size poster of him at the back of the hall. Thank you, Peter, for indicating. Next. And this means it's my turn to invite President Mahesh Das to help honor his esteemed colleague and friend, Janet Echelman. Mahesh.
Good evening. You're all ready?
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the Cascieri Lectureship in the Humanities. So this year we have the distinct honor of hosting Janet Echelman, an artist whose body of work redefines the boundaries of art, architecture, and urban design. Janet's creations are not just visually stunning, they are a dialogue with the elements, with culture, and with the communities that engage with them. Her sculptures, monumental in scale, yet ethereal in presence, weave together the resilience of urban fabric with delicate nuances of light and wind, transforming public places and spaces into realms of interactive art while creating a celebration of possibility. Utilizing materials that range from the robustness of engineered fibers to the ephemeral beauty of atomized water particles, Janet harnesses the power of computational design software to craft installations that are as much a feat of engineering as they are of imagination. With projects spanning cities across 5 continents, they're not just art installations, but focal points of urban life, creating landmarks that are dynamic, ever-changing, and deeply integrated into the cultural and social narratives of the spaces they inhabit. Beyond artistic achievements, her journey is a narrative of relentless curiosity and interdisciplinary exploration. From her foundational years at Harvard College to her transformational experiences in India and at a Balinese village, and through her academic engagements at MIT, Harvard, and Princeton, Janet embodies the spirit of lifelong learning and cross-cultural dialogue. Her TED Talk, Taking Imagination Seriously, has reached audiences in 35 languages worldwide, translating her vision into a global conversation on creativity, resilience, and the power of imagination. As we gather for this year's lecture, we celebrate Janet Echelman's remarkable contributions to the field of art, design, and urban planning, while honoring the legacy of Dean Cascieri, whose radical vision of the BAC and decades-long dedication continue to inspire our diverse global community to explore the intersections of creativity, design, and humanity. To top it all, Oprah Winfrey has ranked Echelman's work #1 on her list of 50 things that make you say, wow. So, Janet, a true friend of the BAC, she has employed a number of our students and alumni over the years and kindly spoke at my own inauguration in December of 2019, 5 years ago. And when I reached out to her with our invitation for this talk, without hesitation, she rescheduled a commitment she already made in New York and moved it to come be with us and give us this special experience. So please help me welcome her. Now, if I know.
Yes. Can we switch the image to the art?
Yes. We are curating this experience.
The first slide is fine.
Yeah, there we go. Please stop. Yeah, I think we're good. I mean, we have a light. I want to make sure we have.
Well, let's make sure you can hear me. Welcome to everyone who's joining us remotely, as well as each of the lovely people who are here in person. I'm going to start with my intention for the lecture tonight. And if you leave feeling inspired to take your own imagination or ideas with seriousness?
Can we turn the lights off?
Yeah. Or do you want me to stand here and then,
No.
oh, the lights come down? All right. Thank you. Thanks. Yes, there we go.
There we go.
All right. And can we go full screen?
This is what we did.
I see. Oh, I see. We're looking at the Zoom. Okay. I've never given a talk while wearing a heavy metal. It's got bees on it, which is really quite wonderful because I'm going to tell you about a pollinator project. So my intention is that you leave inspired to make something, to draw something, to take some idea of yours in your journal seriously. And I also want to acknowledge my partner of 26 years in art and in life, David Feldman, without whom many of these things would not be possible. He's very skilled. All right. Let's see. There we go. I'm going to share my story. As a child, I spent hours and hours practicing the piano. And at age 14, I got my big break to play with the symphony. And what I discovered was that I actually hate performing. And as much as I loved music, every single time I walked onto the stage and the orchestra began, I would get these incredible pains in my stomach, and it never got better. And it was clear that this was not going to be the life for me. And as that closed a door, it also opened another door, which enabled me to come and study in this area at Harvard College. So, I'm not sure what's going on here, but we'll come back. I was terrified. I had gone to public school in Florida, and I'm a really slow reader. And I realized that it was going to be really treacherous. And so I thought, well, I need to find at least one course that doesn't have a lot of papers and big books to read just to keep up. And that is how I ended up in my very first art class. So there you go. My life is a series of accidents, capitalizing on things that go wrong. When I graduated, my father said to me, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, well, I want to be an artist. And he responded, did any of your professors think you have talent and should pursue this? Gulp, long silence. Well, no, in fact, the opposite. It's just the only thing I want to do. And my mom, I shared the same goal, and she replied, that's a very worthy goal. You're going to have to work really hard. Go make, at the time, I defined it as making paintings. Go make 99 paintings. And my seed money was a check for $199 to buy paint. There's so many messages in that if you have to make 99 works, that means that the first 98 don't have to be any good. You know, like there's something about being able to just do something and learn through making and doing. So I applied to 7 art schools because I thought that's how one became an artist, and I was rejected by all 7. All of them. So I realized I would have to learn to be an artist in my own way. And off I went with a one-way ticket. Boy, we're having a little issue with the slides, but it's all fine. Gotta go back one. I tracked it. Oh my. I'm just gonna talk. One more. All right. There we go. So I couldn't learn in the traditional ways. So I decided that I was going to look for traditions that had been passed down generation to generation with the belief that anything that persists must have something of merit or truth in it. And so I began learning craft traditions. I had a one-way ticket to Bali. I had $300, which I used for room, board, and materials. And I began learning craft traditions from master. My first paintings that I felt satisfied with. And this image, the American artist Robert Rauschenberg saw, and he curated my first exhibition. So I'm going to fast forward 10 years. I was painting. All right, we've got to be able to there just once. I applied to go to India on a Fulbright to find the roots of the culture that had been teaching me in Bali. And I arrived in India on the Fulbright to teach painting because I had been painting for a decade. And I promised the American Embassy that I would. All right. This is gonna like make me laugh. All right. I'm just gonna do that. Can you go back though? So I began working with, back one more. There we go. So I was in this village in Mahabalipuram in the south of India, and I was sketching and drawing these fabulous stone temples and looking at the way the interior forms and the exterior forms were different. And I had shipped all of my paints to India in order to give these exhibitions around the country that the US Embassy had rented in Calcutta and Bombay and Ahmedabad. And I was waiting for my paints, waiting. And finally, I got the urgent message that they needed the photographs for the catalog of my work. And I had no work, nothing. And I realized I was going to have to come up with a plan B on the spot with something that was there. And next slide. I was watching the fishermen. Every evening I'd take a walk on the beach and they were finishing their work day. And I looked at these mounds of net on the sand and I thought, that's volumetric form without heavy solid material. I'm going to explore that. So collaborating with these fishermen, next slide. This is my first satisfying sculpture. It's a self-portrait. Its title is Wide Hips. And what was exciting for me I'm going to do it. There we go. Was that as the wind began interacting with the work, it began this mesmerizing choreography of wind, which was beyond my control, and it animated them with the breath of life. And that continues to fascinate me to this day. So here you can see me working. I returned to create a work of 1.5 million hand-tied knots to bring to Europe. And I worked with this group of 9 fishermen, and I packed them in a duffel bag and talked my way onto the plane. And we brought it to Madrid, Spain, the largest art fair in Europe at the time. It was there for just one weekend. They had more than 100,000 people come through. And one of them was the urbanist Manuel Sola Morales from Barcelona, who was redesigning the waterfront in Porto, Portugal. And so he posed to me the question, could I design this as a permanent work for the city? Here's my first site visit, driving to the coast. I could imagine it. I could sketch a fiction of it in computer software, but I really honestly had no idea how to do it. But I said yes, just trusting that I would figure out how to do it. I went searching for a fiber. I bought a ticket to Las Vegas to the Industrial Trade Fabrics Conference and walked the aisles one after the other, looking for a fiber that could be resistant to ultraviolet rays, pollution, salt air, yet remain soft and fluidly moving. I found PTFE, what astronaut spacesuits are coated in. And then I had to raise this up in the middle of a giant highway. I had to solve the problem of hurricane winds and prove to them it would last and withstand 90 miles per hour. And I found an engineer, Peter Heppel, who helped me solve the twin challenges of precise shape with gentle movement. And I had to, there we go. This is a little bit of the mathematics of Peter's notebook, just to understand, calculate the wind forces and the geometry of, and that's the beginning. Then I needed a way to industrial produce what had previously been a handcraft. So I went from factory to factory. All of them said no, except for one, and I'm still working with them today. You only need one. They helped me understand how the machines were fixed and which aspects were variable that I could adjust. And so I discovered that I could adjust the mechanical looms so that I could change each mesh size as if it were a handcrafted piece of lace. And we developed a whole language so that I could communicate an art form to the industrial workers in the factory. And that has become our construction documentation, as in buildings. So here we are raising up a 40,000-pound steel ring and attaching a 45,000 square foot piece of lace. What the curator in New York told me was the largest piece of lace ever created. But for me personally, you know, that had been my first. Can we stop this, whatever's happening? Can't figure out what is, I've never had this happen. It wants to do its own thing. Here we go. This is, oh my goodness. Well, for me, walking under that sculpture gave me these two qualities that I had been seeking, which was to feel simultaneously sheltered and at the same time liberated and free, protected and connected to the infinite space of the sky. Okay, I'm going to do the advancing and it's going to work. I think I should just talk. The other option is I'm going to go. I think I'm back here to advance my own slides. Will that help? I don't think people like to go there. I'll be out there, but I'm. All right. Okay. All right, well, lifting. Working with wind. So we're thinking about an average day that it would move seamlessly. Here is my very first site visit, and here's what you see today when you walk up the coast or drive up the coast in Portugal. And this is the piece on a regular day. They told me that I had to create a signature monument, but not block the views from all of the new condominiums along the waterfront. This is my favorite photo. I didn't take it. It was from Flickr. And this is Google Earth. I think no one should touch it but me. All right, this is, what you can't see in this photo is that it's a 3-lane highway roundabout and there are no crosswalks. So everyone, and how would I know this? This was installed in 2004, so 20 years ago. 20 years it's been there. And so it's through social media that I've come to understand how it's being used. Google Earth, someone called me and they said, go to Google Earth to Europe at the scale where there's one icon per country, and put your click on the icon for the country of Portugal. And there it was. I don't know who took that photo. I don't know what algorithm it was, but it was really exciting that it has a life of its own in the culture, in the community. If you go to the big soccer stadium, the silhouette is the symbol of the city now. This is the Vancouver Winter Olympics, what they were going to build. They wanted 2 artists, one to enhance the railing of that walkway and one to design a water feature. And I opened my big mouth and said, I think that's the wrong thing to do here. I knew I wasn't going to get that job. I said, you should combine these 2 budgets and really rethink the way you go to the waterfront completely. And shockingly, they let me do it. This is Water Sky Garden. The good news is you have to be able to walk away and it's okay. And I was, and I wanted to do this or not do it. And so it was this is San Francisco International Airport. This is Phoenix. This is my first site visit to the center of downtown. And they said, we want a work that will symbolize our city and its future. I said, well, what's here now? And they said, well, parking lots and a notorious strip club. And here it is today. The title, Her Secret is Patience. And now there are bicycle rickshaw drivers who make their living by this is me shooting from the back of the bicycle rickshaw, looking up. The colors of lights take a full year to change. In the summer, they are cooler temperature colors, and in the winter, they are hotter temperature colors. I'm thinking about meaning. I was called by the city of Denver hosting the Biennial of the Americas, asking me to represent the interconnectedness of nations in a visual form. And I was stumped, but I said yes. So I guess, I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but, just trust and work until you find it. So at that point, there had been a tragic earthquake in Chile. And I was looking online at NOAA's website. This is the mapping of the wave heights moving across the Pacific Ocean. And I thought this was a metaphor for interconnectedness, even when we don't perceive it, that something in another part of the world is affecting us. So I wrote to NOAA and asked for the data set, and I was shocked that they shared it with me, and I transformed it to this. Now, this is my first completely soft sculpture, and because of that, it's now so light that it can literally lace into the fabric of the city. It's just laced through the window openings of the Denver Art Museum and then anchored into the ground of the Central Park. And here we are in our studio, completely analog at this point. We made a scale model I built with wood and foam core and push pins, and we just tested how many meshes we would lift it to get the shape. I found a really new high strength fiber, ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. It's what NASA uses for the Mars rover to tether it, because it's 15 times stronger than steel pound for pound. And so I thought, if we make like a grid, an XY axis, that would enable us to make any complex form. And so we gridded it up by hand. We went to the empty hockey rink down the street because it was off season and took blue plastic tarps, duct taped them together, and really using, the techniques from the Renaissance of a small gridded drawing and turning it into a large gridded template. We began to create my first completely soft sculpture. It's called Earth Time 1.26. 1.26 microseconds was the amount of time that the Earth's rotation shifted. And now, because it's so light, it can travel in a small crate. I mean, really not much bigger than that. This is Sydney, Australia. This is Amsterdam. Here we are dealing with boat traffic. This is Singapore, Prague, Shanghai, Santiago, Chile, Montreal in the day and the night. I am not pressing this more than once. This is Munich, where the Mercedes-Benz wanted to premiere electric vehicles for the future, for a new sustainable future, and asked me to create a work there. And they created an amphitheater, and we had live music underneath the sculpture every night. People coming up very, very close to the work. It was so intimate and really connecting with nature. And a permanent iteration of the work in Korea. And then I was really drawn by this way of taking something really concrete, like a data set about the Earth, as a way of getting at these difficult to understand abstract concepts of interconnectedness of human beings and different parts of our planet. This is the earthquake wave mapping of the tsunami that hit Japan and the Fukushima nuclear plant. All right. Next. Here we are working in my studio. All right. Is there a particular place I should point? All right, there we go. This is what comes out of our computer software. This is the Renwick Gallery in Washington, D.C. They told me I had to have a carpet. They had this floral oriental carpet. And I said, I cannot create a sculpture there. And they said, oh, by the way, you also have to keep the room empty up to 14 feet because at night we rent this for parties as a way to sustain the museum. And I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And so I pulled the form up into the vaulted ceiling and worked with an incredible lighting design team to project these colored murals that slowly move. It takes 30 minutes to see the full mural move. And then underneath, I had to learn how to make my own carpet. That was my compromise. If you have to have a carpet, then you have to let me design it. And so my first carpet is 100 feet by 40 feet. And you can see it today if you go to Washington, D.C. at the Renwick Gallery. Sort of across the street. There you can see the shadow drawings in color. This is what it looks like at night when they rent it. And then during the day, it returns to being art. That's my the diagram for the, let's see, that's how I designed the carpet. So it's like a topo map in 2D of what you're experiencing in 3D above you. All right, there we go. And all kinds of surprising things happened. You know, they had a pop-up wedding and people started posting. This is sort of at the very beginning of Instagram. There we go. I have pressed the button. Melting with art, we become part of the exhibition. The First Lady of the United States posted it on her official Instagram, bringing the leaders of the, this is the Nordic country delegation to see American art. So exciting for me. And then that was the Washington Post. You know, I was hoping they would be writing just about the sculpture. No, they were writing about the phenomena of people Instagramming their photographs, which is a way of participating, right? Your interpretation, your photograph, your words about the experience. So taking that content, I began bringing it outdoors. This is London Oxford Circus over the busiest intersection in London. The mayor of London closed the two busiest streets, Oxford and Regent Street, and made the tube exit only to prevent trampling. And the color is changing in real time on people's smartphones. They can select a color that represents how they're feeling, and then it's democracy. It's calculating in real time the proportion of what each color is being selected. And what was the most surprising for me is that because the streets were closed, suddenly people took the streets back and they started lying down. It was January, it was freezing cold, I was shivering, but they took the streets back for people. And they were lying down on the cold asphalt, watching this unfold above their eyes. This is my team up on the roof. This is computer mapping in order to bring that lighting. And so the project has evolved. This is in Madrid, a work for the 400th anniversary of the Plaza Mayor. Here it is traveling. That was Dubai. This is Sweden. That was Helsinki. There's Helsinki. Okay, I'm going to be the only one to advance it. Okay, Seattle. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation built their one and only global headquarters. They moved in and they said it felt empty. And they said to me, it needs a heart. Janet, can you create a visual form that expresses our mission or the spirit of our mission? Well, I was pretty overwhelmed because they wake up every day to give every person the chance for a healthy, productive life. And I was racking my brain. I didn't know how to think about this. And I thought, well, I can only deal with one day. What does it mean to wake up for me and to see the day in its full color? And so I put a camera on their roof and began recording the numerical color of the sky for 24 hours. Right, one more time. And I mapped it radially. And so that is the shape of the color of a day. And then we draped this in our computer software. First, these are my models, string and wire, and then in the first computer models, and then the more complex computer models. And our engineers help to determine the loads on each rope so that each one is custom made to the right thickness. And here it is draping with gravity to understand the form. And I wanted it to blend with the sky and the changing weather. So the colors are about those colors of clouds, of blue sky, of gray sky, of rain. But at night, I wanted it to glow with the color of sunrise. I was thinking it's the opposite of what I had learned about the British Empire, like the sun never set on the British Empire. So for these people working at the foundation, the sun is always rising to do the work to give every person a healthy, productive life. So here I'm taking the color of sunrise in each of their offices around the world in real time, changes every day, live feed, and it's being projected. So now it's sunrise in Ethiopia, it's sunrise in Beijing, it's sunrise in London. So it is physically and literally connecting them to their mission, which is getting up to do the work. And you can see it from the Space Needle. There's a detail. All right, let's see if we can show you a few more projects. This is the Sunset Strip in West Hollywood, California. I was having insomnia, and one day I'm waking up in the middle of the night, I go online and I see this is your brain when it hits REM sleep. And I was like, that's what I want. I was thinking, you know, Hollywood, it's where everyone goes for their dreams. And as a child, I had made dream catchers, a Native American craft. And I thought, I'm going to make a dream here on the Sunset Strip, because it's my work had to be held between two hotel towers. People are literally dreaming as well as going there. So the work Dreamcatcher is a permanent work. You can go there. This is my first sketch in 3 dimensions. And each layer is pulled into tension. That's the rendering. And here are the built. This is I wanted when you went underneath it, that you'd look up and it would all line up. And so this is what it looks like here. Well, I invite you to go there, have a drink on the roof and look down. Go at night to see the colors of dreaming. It's now the one hotel on the Sunset Strip. That's out of the hotel window, guys. And structurally, those of you, this is the analysis. My engineers are from Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, SOM, and these are the analyses of the forms. You know, when it has red, that means we have to rework the design to get rid of that. And we do it with model making, physical model making, not just here we are in the studio, this is the real thing. And every detail matters. Those of you studying architecture, God is in the details. Well, the details here, when they pour the concrete slabs of each floor of the hotel, we had our hardware ready to embed in that concrete slab so that we could have all the tensioning hardware to bring the structural ropes into tension completely seamlessly hidden. Like you really don't see any hardware at all. And then the way that you can go in and adjust it later, it's under the floor in the hotel room. So you just peel up the carpet and there's a trap door. And, you know, so it really, those details, and there you can see that hardware being embedded into the concrete slab. And afterwards, we have to test ourselves. So we did a LiDAR scan. So this is a 3D point map to see, you know, we calculated the geometry we thought we were building, and then we tested it, and it was pretty darn close. By the way, it's on the San Andreas Fault, literally like through the middle. So you get to see a little drone footage of what this is like. History is something I'm working with. This is North Carolina asking to celebrate their history of textiles. Engineer other works to withstand ice and snow, which is not difficult. It just means that it can't be quite as delicate. And so the decision here was to make it so that it would just come down when we needed it to. The history of Columbus, Ohio, has been created as a permanent work in the city that stretches between 4 corners in the middle of downtown. And it's called Current. This was one of the first cities to electrify its streets after the Civil War. They created these truss arches, and that's day and night current. Anybody recognize this? This is the Boston Artery, a highway that was nicknamed the largest parking lot in the world. Something called the Big Dig, the largest public works project in America, enabled us to remove it, bury it underground, and we ended up with a beautiful tiny ribbon of green stretching through the city called the Rose Kennedy Greenway. And they reached out to me and asked me to propose a work. And my first sketch, all I could think about is that I wanted to sew the city back together with its waterfront. And then they said, oh, we're only going to work with one part. We have funding for one block. And so I said, okay, let's take the key moment. And I learned that like the Tri-Mountain, think Tremont Street, had been cut down to create landfill. And that the land that we walk on at this park is all landfill. And so I created 3 voids in the sculpture to recall that Tri-Mountain as we walk on the landfill. And also this helped with my wind load. So here is the next iteration of our computer software where each panel and then here each bobbin of color within the panels are pieced together so that we understand it 3-dimensionally as form. And then within the 3-dimensional scale and movement of the city, you don't view a piece of sculpture like a painting. We're moving, we're walking, bicycling, Ubering. You know, this is an active part of the city. So that's my process. So this piece was 600 feet. It stretched to the 28th story of International Place. It connected to 4 different buildings, all owned by separate private building owners. The Rose Kennedy Greenway brought together all private donors. We also had a donor who was a law firm and an insurance company. So this was really necessary. On one side, you see the computer rendering from our software. The other is a photo I took on my phone, unphotoshopped. And so it comes out of a small box. It weighs only 2,000 pounds, which is actually incredibly light for something, you know, that's almost 2 city blocks long. And here you can see we had 7 cranes that came in at 3 a.m. in the morning. And by 11 a.m., we reopened I-90, the entrance, and the patterns of behavior immediately changed. This was a part of the city where people didn't gather at lunchtime. And at night, there's not even electricity there. And it was an instantaneous change. You know, we think that behavior is so difficult to change, but I don't really think that's true. I think design has the power to change. And I could say so many things about it, but here you can see the chains pulling it up to the 28th story. This is measuring the load on each of the ropes, and my engineers could see that digitally on their iPhones in real time, because nothing had been done like this before. You've got to have friends who are your colleagues who are willing to take risks when we know that it's safe, but just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done. There you can see how it's attached to the 4 buildings. And the title is As If It Were Already Here. So it's about imagining. And really at each period of time in the city's history, they reimagined themselves in really ambitious ways. And so what is the ambitious reimagining that we need to do for our time? And I will say one of the most meaningful things to me, there's a steakhouse at the base of one of the skyscrapers. And the waiter there told me that every night when he finished his shift, it might be midnight or 1 a.m., that he would go lie down in the grass and just watch the colors change before making his way home. Participation is something I'm playing with. This is designing a piece for the waterfront in Vancouver, Canada, that was host of the TED conference. And I wanted to invite people to participate literally. And I reached out to, oh, well, maybe we won't get that video, to Google's data arts team. And they created an interface on your phone without having to download an app or anything, where you could draw with light in real time. So people were drawing together. All right, we'll keep going. Ah, here we go. There it is. So you take your phone, you select your color, and then it begins to project in real time. So I'm the white circles, you're the purple circles, and suddenly we bump into each other. It's a physical space and a virtual space at the same time. I love experimentation. It's exciting for me to do things I don't know. These are collaborations with choreographers. The first two were in Stuttgart with the Stuttgart Ballet in Germany. This is a new project that is ongoing and evolving with the choreographer Rebecca Legier from Princeton University. This is our first workshop in Seattle, Washington, and here we go. It's been workshops all over, and it's going to be opening in the Berkshires in Massachusetts this summer at PS 21. If any of you want to come this summer. So these are different iterations in Canada. It received the Canada Creation Grant. You can see it evolving before your eyes here. I experiment with all kinds of things, with materials, with methods, with ideas. Here is a site, the center of Philadelphia, it's beloved City Hall. And I wanted to work with a different material. I wanted to work with water particles instead of netting, because this was the original source of water and the waterworks for the whole city, which enabled it to grow. And I began searching, and I found a failed commercial product. It was a mist video screen that was really blurry. So they had sold 4 units, this fog manufacturer, and the 5th one was in the back closet, and they dragged it out and we turned it on. And lo and behold, it was something I felt that if we took it on its own merit, instead of trying to make it something it wasn't, it could have great potential for art. And I'm trying to show you an image. So I may need, there we go. The waterworks. I think there's some magical, I have to point in a certain direction. Yes, I think that's the answer here. So that's the unit from the back closet. And I started experimenting with different colors of white. And I was thinking, one of my favorite painters is Mark Rothko, the American abstract painter. And so, like, my question was, how could I have a physical experience as if I were walking into a Rothko? And so, like, step by step, we're prototyping. You saw the first one. Now, this is a prototype to understand what happens when they meet and crisscross. And it has opened, the first phase of it, the green line has opened to the public. And as you walk by, you never know when it's coming. So, all right, we're going to see this video. There we go. And the thing is, you don't know. It's triggered by the actual movement of the subway underground. So it's really like a picture of the city, like as if you were doing an X-ray or, an EKG of the city. This is like its circulatory system is transportation. So it's really playful and fun. And it happens 3 seasons a year, because in the winter, they turn this into an ice skating rink. So I invite you to go at night in the summer and see the colors But if you pay attention, it gives you a reward because you'll learn about the city, that there's more east-west traffic than north-south at certain times of day. And, oh, you've missed your train. Intimate works, this is a work in a private home in Santa Barbara, California. Which I wasn't sure if I knew how to work in that way, and it was actually a great joy to create something intimate that, you know, this couple can live with and their friends can come and be underneath it and walk amongst it. This is another private work. This is in Mumbai, India, and it is based, it's called Without Beginning, Middle, or End. And it's based on all the great rivers of the world. And that is from so this is the final piece I'm going to share. It's about a work that opened recently on the coast of Florida in St. Petersburg, Florida. And the site they gave me as I began to research it, I uncovered that it was the site of swim-ins. And it led to the first US Supreme Court ruling that integrated all municipal pools and beaches in the United States. But there was no marker. There was hardly any history that you could find at all, and I decided to make a 500-foot marker because this is history we needed to know. It's called Bending Arc, and it withstands a Category 5 hurricane. It lights up at night, and what's been so exciting to me is how it's become part of life. Now on Friday nights, there are drumming circles every Friday. I was there on a Saturday night and somebody bicycled in with this like music boom box with lights and people were just like spontaneously dancing. And he said he comes on the weekends and, you know, it's just exciting to see. I think they have regular yoga there now. I got an email from someone who told me it was his dream to get married there on a tandem bicycle, and he did. So this has been really meaningful to me to see this unfold. And that's actually, this work is going to be the cover of a new book that will come out next year from Chronicle Books and Princeton Architectural Press. And the title is Radical Softness. And it's edited by Gloria Sutton. There you can see the drumming circle events. Oh, when the Black Lives Matter movement had like protests every Friday and Saturday night at City Hall, they chose my sculpture as the destination point, and they would be in a circle and tell stories as the culmination of their activism. That it was holding people in space and could hold. And then when Russia invaded Ukraine, I went down there and turned the color yellow and blue in solidarity. Oh, and here, Hurricane Ian blasted through the west coast of Florida. And I was really excited that the headline, you know, artists are always nervous, architects are always nervous. The headline was, you know, the sculpture dazzles as Hurricane Ian. And then I close with a truth that we all know, which is that it's a team sport. And many students and graduates of the BAC have been instrumental in this work and these projects. And we're looking for more talented folks to join us. And I'm really excited that there will be 2 new works in the Boston area, actually in Cambridge coming next year. One at the Broad Institute and one at the MIT Museum. So thank you, and come and join us. Come and join us. And join the community online, our Instagram, and I answer when people make questions, post questions on Facebook, I answer them myself. So I try to expand the idea of community. Thank you.